right, we are up and running.
Great, thank you. Well, welcome everyone. I hope you're all staying safe and healthy and your summers are going well. Glad to see you all virtually here today. I'm Simran Malhotra, principal with Ramey & Associates. We are leading the general plan update for the city of Palmdale. This meeting is being live streamed on YouTube on the Palmdale 2045 channel, and it's also being recorded. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. and start with introducing Carlene Saxton, who's the Deputy Director for the Department of Community Development and Economics, and she's also the Acting Planning Manager, to make some opening remarks. Carlene.
Thank you, Simran. Yes, welcome everyone. It's so wonderful to see our great GPAC, even if it is virtually. Thank you. I know that everyone has a very busy schedule for making the time for this important meeting and project. I know you guys are all very engaged and excited to kind of keep moving it along. So I think this is a big one. This is kind of when we're starting to get into the nuts and bolts, and we're really excited to share this information with you, have some active dialogue, and hope that we get some good feedback out of this. So thank you, and I'll hand it back over to Simran.
Thanks, Carlene. So today's meeting is intended to provide an overview of the general plan update process, where we've been so far, and also spend most of our time presenting and then discussing the land use alternatives. Let's start with some introductions. Besides Carlene here, we have Megan Taggart, who's a senior planner, and Benjamin Fiss, who's also a senior planner with the city. Megan and Ben, if you want to say hello.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all good night.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for coming.
And from the Ramey team, we have Melissa Stark, who's an intermediate planner with our firm.
Hi, everyone.
Let's do a quick roll call for the GPAC. Please wave or verbally acknowledge when I call your name. Tony Avila. Juan Blanco.
Here.
Lourdes Everett.
Here.
Colby Estes.
Here. I was here last time too. It doesn't say it, but I was.
Oh, we'll make that change. Sorry about that. I know Laura couldn't make it today. Teresa Hambro. Matt Harris couldn't attend either, and I don't believe Aurora is here. Pat Hunt. Sherry Kanashiro is not here, I don't think. Terry Lamping.
Present.
Joe Paricio.
Here.
Deborah Rutkowski-Hines.
Here.
And Jason Zink.
Here, hi everyone.
Well, welcome everyone. And now Melissa will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please.
If everyone wouldn't mind, please standing and repeating after me. Right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Thank you, Melissa. The first item on the agenda today is meeting minutes approval from the last meeting, which was held on May 20th. Are there any corrections?
Yes, need one. Just small.
Go ahead.
It's a small correction on page 2 under fiscal health summary line 4. The second word, we probably need to change that to than. It's
Okay.
very small. That's about
Sure,
it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Colby, thank you. Colby, you noted that you weren't listed as present. We'll make that correction as well. Any other comments? Is there a motion?
So move.
A second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, Melissa, do you want to open the voting?
Looks like Melissa's frozen.
Oh, okay, well, we'll just do a verbal vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any against? No, motion passes. Great. Now I'll pass this over to Melissa to give us a quick Zoom overview. I know we've been using this for a while, but I'd just like to have a quick reminder from her. Melissa, are you back? Doesn't seem like it. So, okay, I'll just keep going. As you know, as you can see on your screen at the bottom of your screen is the audio button. You can mute yourself when you're not speaking, and to unmute yourself, you press the same button. Right next to it is the video button. This turns on your webcam if you have one, and it's optional whether you keep that on or not. We'd appreciate it when you're sharing your comments, you turn it on so we can all see each other at that time. If you want to share a question or have some comment without speaking, you can use the chat button. It'll be on the right next to your name on the participants box, and you can type in your comment then. We'll call on people individually, so we are not all talking at the same time. And finally, if you have any issues, you can chat the host. Melissa and I will get your comments, and we can share them with the rest of the group as appropriate. I also wanted to note that we'll be pausing several times during the presentation to answer any questions you might have, and for asking some discussions. We'll also have several questions for you that we'll ask using the poll feature. I would respectfully request that all members keep their questions and comments short, if possible, and to the point, so that everyone has an opportunity to share. This is a fairly long presentation. We'd like to get through all of it and also have ample time for you to share your opinions and ask any questions that you might have. So to start with, I just want to remind you all where we are in the project. We started a little over a year ago, and we have a 6-phase project that's laid out. We've finished the first 2 phases, and we are in the 3rd phase, which is alternative. The first 2 steps comprised of learning about the city, identifying issues and opportunities, and working with you and taking the community input into account, developing a long-term vision and guiding principles for the general plan. Taking that input in mind, we have created land use alternatives that we are sharing with you today. We also have a virtual workshop and a survey that's been open for the last couple of weeks and will stay open for the next several weeks as well, to get input from the larger Palmdale population. The input from that survey, as well as the input we received from you today, will be taken to the City Council and Planning Commission in September to get their feedback and direction on the preferred land use alternative. That land use alternative then will be analyzed and policy solutions developed that accompany that land use alternative for a range of topics, and those will be incorporated into the general plan document. We anticipate that document will go back out to the public for review, as well as to the City Council and Planning Commission for adoption in fall of 2022. So very briefly, I wanted to start with mentioning what land use is. Now, as you know, land use can be classified as residential, which includes single-family homes, apartments, condominiums, small lot homes, row houses, etc. Non-residential uses include retail, restaurants, hotels, office uses, industrial uses, business parks, among others. And public and institutional uses include schools, hospitals, public facilities, and parks. This next map shows what the distribution of land uses are in Palmdale today. You can see the Antelope Valley Mall here at this location, Plant 42 in this bright pink, the distribution of single-family residential across the city in this light yellow, square uses on the southeast portion of the city, and protected open space on the southwest portion of the city boundary. But the largest, the most common color on this map is in gray, which shows vacant land. This accompanying graph shows that almost 2/3 of the city is currently vacant, and the next prominent land use in the city is single-family residential, which is almost 12.5%. Most of the other uses are well below the 10% mark. So accompanying what's on the ground today is the general plan land use map, which establishes what the policy direction is. And whether a property is vacant or not, the general plan has a land use designation for that property. This includes what the use is, where it is located, and what the intensity and density of that use is. And the land use map is supported by other policies as well as the other elements of the general plan. And these elements include policies and implementation actions to ensure that there is adequate infrastructure and services, transportation, connectivity, and other similar services that are needed to make the land use plan a reality. This shows the current general plan land use map in a little bit larger. As you can see, the primary colors on the map, yellow is single family residential, which covers a good portion of the city. In the bright pink or magenta is manufacturing uses. Business park uses are shown in the bright blue. Now, briefly, let me start describing the alternatives. Based on what we heard from the community and from working with you all, the general plan team prepared and revised our vision themes. We've discussed these in previous GPAC meetings. But just as a reminder, I wanted to briefly overview these. These vision themes were meant to provide a framework to guide future decision making. They're broad and they address all aspects of life in Palmdale. Some of these themes include creating a vibrant downtown, diversifying the local economy with more job options, providing more housing options for residents of all income and ability levels, preserving Palmdale's natural setting, and creating a safe and healthy city that is welcoming for all. All the alternatives that we are presenting today are consistent with these vision themes. So why do we consider alternatives? The purpose of the alternatives are to test different land use and urban design patterns so that we can understand what the trade-offs are between those alternatives and allow us to make informed choices. These then lead us to policies and implementation actions that are needed to make these happen. The alternatives vary in different ways. What the land uses should be, or the mix of land uses, where these are located, or the pattern, the intensity of land uses, or how much of that particular land use is provided. And then we evaluate the various alternatives for several metrics that include number of jobs, housing units, travel patterns, among others. After we receive feedback from the alternatives, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be taking that to the decision makers for their input and direction, and we will have a preferred land use plan or the preferred alternative later this fall that we'll be discussing with you at the time again. The next set of slides provide the background context for how the alternatives were developed. We discussed natural and physical constraints in previous meetings, and these included an analysis of areas prone to wildfires, floods, earthquakes, and those with other conditions that affect what gets built. Location of physical constraints such as the rail line, Union Pacific Rail Line, State Route 14, the California Aqueduct also impact where development may go. And most importantly, which areas are serviced by utilities and infrastructure, and where new infrastructure investments are being considered. We also looked at the distribution of vacant land, which is shown in the darker gray in the map here. And when we overlaid the constraints, we identified a central core area where development is most likely to occur in the next 25 years. The rest of the area within the city is considered stable, either because it's already developed or it's unlikely to develop due to the variety of factors I just described. If you recall, you had all worked on a similar exercise with us that went into confirming that this area is what the area of change for the general plan should be. Our team's economists also identified near and long-term opportunities for different land uses in Palmdale. And we had discussed these in great detail at our last meeting. So I won't read through all of these again, but just briefly point out, for example, there are near and near-term opportunities as well as long-term opportunities for various land uses. So for example, today the market is primarily focused on single-family housing, but in the future, we see a need for multifamily housing with amenities that supports job growth. We also considered what the market demand is for the next 25 years and how much space there is to accommodate it. And Palmdale can easily support all the market demand in a relatively small area, given its large supply of vacant land. At one of our previous meetings, you all developed land use alternatives in 3 groups. We also had the public who had attended that meeting prepare an alternative, and those maps are on the screen here, and these have been shared with you previously, as well as are available on the project website for review. Based on these alternatives, we developed the 3 land use alternatives that I'm about to present. I also wanted to note some of the highlights of what we had heard from you with regard to the alternatives, what was considered the most important for all the alternatives to include. And these included a diversity of employment options, ensuring that there's room for educational district or a four-year campus, hospital and medical facilities, a downtown area, and improved transportation options, among others. The major elements of the alternatives are based on the items I just mentioned. We also have prepared tailored land use designations for various kinds of land uses in Palmdale, and these cover the spectrum of the kinds of development we envision in Palmdale in the future. Some of these are already in use in the current general plan, and those are shown with the gray background. And there are some new designations that allow for other types of developments that are not currently permitted. So for example, on the screen in front of you, we have 6 designations that allow for single family development to occur at different densities or minimum lot sizes. We have added a couple of more options to allow for other housing types that currently are not able to be built in Palmdale because they're not permitted. And these include courtyard housing, row houses, some more apartments at different densities, as well as townhomes. We also introduced 4 different mixed-use designations, and mixed-use designations include a mix of retail or commercial uses and residential uses on the same parcel. These can be organized either vertically, which means retail with residential above, or it could be horizontal, which means retail or commercial in the front and housing in the back. In terms of commercial office or industrial uses, the current general plan already provides for neighborhood commercial and regional commercial uses. Neighborhood commercial would include something like grocery stores, your local dry cleaners, or coffee shop, while a regional commercial would include big box retail. We've introduced 2 more designations, one for visitor commercial, which includes hotels, breweries, supporting retail, restaurants, etc. And this designation is intended to serve some of the demand that's generated because of the employment at Plant 42, but also to capture the pass-through traffic on State Route 14. The employment flex zone is intended to be a flexible zone which allows for a range of employment type uses, and hence the name, and that includes light industrial, office buildings, medical office, business park, research and development, and maker space type uses. The list of designations also include a couple of industrial designations, both of which exist in the current general plan, and then an additional designation for institutional uses. Public facilities, open space, and mineral resource extraction are existing designations as well. I'll pause here for any questions, and then we have a question to ask you. Any questions?
Will we be getting into the alternatives later, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Melissa, do you want to run the poll? Oh, Melissa's having a hard time joining the call, and I apologize for that. I guess the question I was going to ask you, we were going to use the poll feature to ask is, do you think the land use designations we just described are missing something, or do they capture the essence of what you would like to see in Palmdale?
I think it covers everything.
A pretty good amount, so I'm just waiting for the next part.
Okay. Melissa just mentioned that I can launch the poll. I just need to find out where that is. I was expecting her to do this, so sorry about that. A few technical difficulties here. Let me see. Okay, let me see if I can go to, here we go. Got it, here we go. You should have all received the question.
Hello, Simran?
Yes.
This is Teresa Hambra. I'm also having technical difficulties, so I joined in by phone.
Okay.
I can't seem to get the Zoom going again. It just my internet's all working, but for some reason it's just not connecting. Just to let you know,
okay.
I'm here. I'm listening.
All right. You can watch the meeting on YouTube since it's being broadcast live there. It might be a little delayed, but you'll at least be able to see the slides.
Okay, I'll try that. Thank you.
And if not, the presentation is also online on the project website under GPAC. You can download it and follow along with that there.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
With a city that's about, what, 18, 19 miles long, with a lot of open land, I didn't hear much said about rural or equestrian uses.
Mm-hmm.
Is that?
Yes. And if not, the presentation is also. Sorry, go ahead, Pat.
No, that was my question. I didn't hear much about rural uses.
Okay, let me flip back to the land use designations. So those are captured in these existing single-family designations that are in the current general plan. The equestrian residential includes some of the larger lot housing developments that you're referring to.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Other questions? Okay, I think we have our results. We had 1 neutral response and 7 yes. So thank you for that. Okay, moving right along. So based on the analysis that we conducted and focused on the core areas of change, we have certain elements that are constant through all the alternatives. And these are, and I'll point to them on the map, the location of downtown around the transit station and which includes the high-speed rail station, a location of a medical district at the Palmdale Regional Medical Center, regional commercial uses around the Antelope Valley Mall, employment uses surrounding Plant 42, a mixed-use corridor along Palmdale Boulevard, a mix of residential uses at different densities on both sides of Palmdale Boulevard between Avenue Q and Avenue R. And then village centers and multi-use centers across the city, which are intended to be neighborhood centers or village centers which provide daily goods and services. And these create complete neighborhoods. The idea here is that these village centers are places where residents can walk to or bike to or get to very easily for their daily needs instead of having to get into their car to go to a larger shopping center. And this was something that you all had expressed as being very important in earlier meetings as well. I also wanted to note that with all three meetings, all three alternatives, parks, schools, and other amenities will be provided. These all new residential development will be required to provide park space or open space for the city standards. And we will also be illustrating where trails go and other types of parks and open space when we get to the preferred alternative. And with that, I'll pause again for any questions or comments, and then I have a question for you all as well. So I guess I'll ask my question. Yes.
The portion where you had a mixed use with residential, you mentioned that it would have conveniences. Would it be close to, say, some areas where in senior centers would walking distance where they would have grocery stores and things like that as well?
Yeah, so the neighborhood centers are building upon existing areas of shopping for the most part. And in those areas, you can, those would be the appropriate locations for additional supportive facilities. Like, for example, you might have senior housing close to those so the residents can walk to the village centers for their daily needs. You would also have community facilities or facilities such as a senior center that could be located in the center or in close proximity to it. So you begin to create these areas which become hubs for various neighborhoods so that there is a place for those residents to go and to build community.
Great, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, I'll launch the poll while others are thinking about something to ask. Give you a second or so more. All right, so let me share the results. We have 6 who agree and 2 who are neutral. Okay, let's keep going. So now we get to the fun part, the land use alternatives themselves. You waited a while to hear about these. So just a quick reminder, the purpose of the alternative is to test different land use patterns and to evaluate the trade-offs between them. So starting with alternative 1, in this option, we have a variety of aerospace industrial uses, which are shown in the dark purple here, general industrial uses, which are the middle range of purple, and then employment flex uses, which are the lightest pink here. There's a different mix of these uses, employment type uses in the 3 alternatives. In this option, besides AV Mall, there's a regional commercial node over on 47th Street and Palmdale Boulevard. In this option, we have higher density residential expanded between Avenue Q and Avenue R and around downtown. And this option has a larger education district with higher education facilities adjacent to the regional medical center. There's an additional medical district on Avenue S between 40th Street and 47th Street near the Kaiser facility. In this option, the neighborhood centers or the village centers throughout the city provide a mix of neighborhood commercial uses surrounded by townhomes and courtyard apartments. So in terms of metrics, this option or this alternative has the highest density housing around downtown and Palmdale Boulevard. It also has a moderate amount of aerospace industrial, least amount of industrial, and the highest amount of employment flex uses. Alternative 2 here, and you can see with the more of the darker purple, has the most amount of aerospace industrial uses. There is also more employment flex uses in here. In this option, the housing the housing being proposed is at the lowest density. And there's an expanded medical district around the Kaiser facility on Avenue S. And there is an education district near the AV College campus on 25th Street and Palmdale Boulevard. The neighborhood centers in this option are made up exclusively of commercial and retail uses throughout the city. And the regional commercial zone node over on 47th Street also still exists. The metrics for this option include the village centers with exclusively commercial uses, as I just mentioned, the lowest density housing around downtown and on both sides of Palmdale Boulevard, and then the highest amount of aerospace industrial, moderate amount of industrial, and the least amount or less amount of employment flex uses. In alternative 3, we have mostly general industrial uses. There's limited aerospace industrial around Plant 42. This option has the largest regional commercial node on 47th Street East and Palmdale Boulevard. And the density of housing is more of the middle range. And with this option, you would see low-rise walk-ups, townhomes, courtyard apartments, and other similar housing types. In alternative 3, we have 2 education districts, one near the AV College campus and a second one closer to where the Palmdale Aerospace Academy is. In terms of medical districts, we have the existing medical district around the regional medical center, which is expanded, and then the continuation of the Kaiser facility and surrounding supporting medical uses over on S and 47th Street. So in terms of metrics for this alternative, this has a moderate amount of aerospace, and industrial is more of a balance, and then it has the least amount of employment flex uses. So how do these alternatives compare? So the major differences between the alternatives are tied to the distribution and mix of employment uses. Density of new housing is different in the 3 alternatives, the location of the medical and educational districts, and then the amount of regional commercial on the east side. So how do these alternatives compare to each other? And we have prepared a comparative analysis between them, and that's on the slide in front of you. We've also provided information in the dark blue, which shows how this this analysis compares to the current general plan as a benchmark. So in terms of the three alternatives, alternative 1 has the most jobs, has the most housing units, while alternative 2 has the least. Alternative 3 has the most jobs, while alternative 1 has the least. Since the housing is most spread out in alternative 2, the portion of folks walking or biking is the lowest. So that's the mode share portion is the least. Similarly, for the same reason, the annual miles, vehicle miles traveled per household is the highest for alternative 2. And I'd also like to point out, when you compare it to the current general plan, that actually has even more, even though the number of jobs and homes is less. So that speaks to the pattern of land uses that you would expect to see with the current general plan versus any of the three alternatives that we have presented. The last metric here is tied to annual household costs. So what does it cost for transportation, energy, and water usage, so your utilities? And per our analysis, alternative 2 has the highest cost, and that's function of how much you need to travel for your day-to-day per household as well. So I'll stop for some questions here. Any questions from anyone about either the alternatives or the metrics we just presented?
I was wondering if you could just back up that slide to show the previous slide just a little bit longer. That one, yes,
this
thank
slide?
you.
Yep,
yes,
I can leave that on.
Question, in one you have
Yes.
education district on 10th Street West area and nothing on the east side. Then you have one education district on the east side and another one. And then you have two education districts almost next to each other on the east side. Why don't we do one on the west side and one on the east side?
That's exactly what we are here to hear from you today, Pat. So alternative 1, and let me see if I can draw on here. In alternative 1,
number 1 has education on the west side. Oh, they both do. They all three do, actually. Okay.
And that's in the Trade and Conference Center, right?
Yes. So in alternative 1, the education district is on the west side. The medical district is expanded on the west side, plus around the Kaiser facility. In alternative 2, there is more medical at near Kaiser, so we expect that to be more expanded, and then the existing west side medical district stays. In this alternative, the education district is focused around the AV campus, AV College Extension School on 25th. In the last alternative, the medical district expands on the west side, just the Kaiser facility stays on the east side, and there are two educational districts. They're smaller, one near the AV College campus and the other near the Aerospace Academy.
The reason I ask is because it's easier to drive from the west side of Palmdale over to the Antelope Valley College in Lancaster to go to school than it would be to go to the east side of Palmdale. So to serve the west side of Palmdale would be, I think, a good idea.
Okay. One thing we heard at in one of our previous stakeholder meetings, which I thought was a good idea, is that if there are two education districts, one on the east side and one on the west, they could have a different focus. So for example, the district on the west side, since it's next to the medical center, could have more focus on medical training and supportive job training related to the medical field, while that on the east side could be more focused on aerospace related training, just as an example. Other questions? Okay, let me start this poll.
Hello?
Yes.
Are you guys, this is Jason Zink.
Oh, hey, Jason.
Hey,
Go
good,
ahead.
good. Yeah, I agree with Pat Hunt that there needs to be an educational district on the east side. You got to remember, Palmdale just doesn't serve Palmdale, it serves the southeast Antelope Valley, all the foothill communities along Highway 138, and that's where all the high growth will happen in the future as far as in the unincorporated area of LA County. If you look at the educational system, if you put it there in the central part of Palmdale or a little bit east to it where the junior college is now, the lots are very small. It costs a fortune to assemble all those lots and to create any kind of educational center. So you have to locate educational centers where there's land, you know, because you don't want to deal with just, you know, you just want to deal with a couple landowners. You don't want to deal with 100 landowners that have a different view of what their best use of land is and their value and stuff like that. And I do believe that Palmdale does want a junior college. We wanted a junior college in the 1980s and the 1990s. That was the deal with AV College, that we'd have a Palmdale Junior College campus to serve the southeast Antelope Valley. And I do believe that the students, they want athletic fields like they have in Lancaster. They want big facilities like they have on the west side of Lancaster. So I think we need to look at that issue. Also, one issue that's not mentioned in any of this is preservation of land and saving Joshua trees. And so that was one component that was not in this that I wish was.
I'd like to mention.
Thank you, Jason.
If I can talk to you about the education. Some of the stuff that we talked about was more on a 4-year college, mainly because we have some employers, large employers out here who are currently having difficulties finding properly educated people out here. We've got, as we saw from the data you presented before, we've really slipped as far as our educational level. And so splitting, I'm concerned about when you split the district. I agree with Pat that we need something on the west because it is easier to just go to Lancaster on the west side. But I think we also need to be looking to the future to see down the road, are we going to build this to where we've got the capability to go to a 4-year if the political thing changes to where we've got some political power to get a 4-year college down here.
Thank you, Deborah. Other comments?
I just have a quick question. So I have my bearings about me 100%. Where's the new Amazon at on this map? And how is the new surrounding? Because that would seem like that's rezoned and it's gonna be pretty populous around it. And it looks like to me, some of these items are falling right in there, which seems to maybe run contrary to what's going on over there right now. Isn't the new Amazon right there by the education you show on the west side? Am I missing that?
Sure. This is Megan Taggart with City of Palmdale. So if you look at alternative 2, just to the north of the Education and Medical District, you'll see some red boxes. It's that one right in the middle there, Simran, right there.
That's it.
Yeah, right here.
So that comes all the way down to where they're re-expanding and all of that, and that's considered, what is that considered right now? That's considered commercial?
It's regional commercial, yes.
Oh, sorry.
And that's going to be repopulous theoretically for education centers as well?
Let me go to the larger map. It might be easier here. Here we go. So as Megan just pointed out, right here, where my cursor is where the Amazon facilities is potentially being considered. And in alternative one, the education district is just to the south of it.
So right in that little area is the auto center, the Amazon, and then a couple medical, and that's meant to squeeze in the hub of some kind of education stuff. That's on that proposal part of it, or that portion of the proposal. Not to harp on one item. I just want to make sure I get it.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think there's more than enough land when you think about it there. I mean, the scale, you know, as you know, the city is over 100 square miles. So what looks like a tiny square here is actually almost a section by itself. So there's enough land to accommodate all the uses you mentioned, Colby.
Okay, it's fine. I mean, I live on the west side, so I like seeing more stuff on the west side. But it seems like that's kind of a lot on the west side versus the east side is kind of really feels like that double on the east side does seem like it has some appropriateness to it if you really give some upside to the east side right now.
Simran?
Okay.
Yes. The 3 districts that we're talking, education districts we're talking about, are they any of those large enough to house a 4-year university?
The district well, it depends on the size of the university, of course. The 3, not all 3. The one next to it, the Palmdale Aerospace Academy, I don't believe would have enough land to house a university, but the other 2, we believe, have adequate land.
What kind of acreage are we looking at for those the educational districts?
Deborah, that's a good question. I don't have the number off the top of my head. We can look, double check that and send it out as a follow-up email.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you.
So I'm only seeing 4 members who have responded so far. Do the others want to share their opinions, or we can leave the poll open?
And I think that we should spread the wealth. And I liked your idea about having something on the west side and something on the east side, because I think that the east side sometimes falls short of having like medical or education or items like that on the east side.
Okay.
And I was looking at, I'm sorry. I had an observation too. I was looking at all of these, and I do like what you say. I think the education, it does need to be broken up between west and east side, and not having it all just 2 on the east side or putting it all together. I don't think that would work well. And I really do, overall, I like 1 the best. That seems, in my mind, that one seems to work the best.
Okay.
Because I just like how the mixture I like how the mixture of everything works together in one.
Okay. Do you want to be a little more specific about any of the aspects of that option, or is just how the layout?
I just like the general layout of that one.
Okay. Other thoughts? Let me call on someone who hasn't spoken yet. Juan, did you want to share your thoughts?
Yeah, I know I'm a little quiet here, but so in reality that we have going on, the east side of Palmdale probably has more families with younger children that over time will still be going to school in the next 10 to 15 years. The west side has kids, but not as many as the east side. So I'm okay with the districts because we still have to work with our school districts to make all of this happen. I'm concerned about our multi-use, multi-dwelling use, where we can have more available housing for our younger people who are leaving high school and going to college, but are going to stay here, they're not going to have a lot of money. So we need affordable housing for them. And so I'm kind of like focused on that. And for me, alternative 3 kind of fits that bill. And I'm also working towards helping to improve on our transportation, because you can say you want something there, but getting to it and being able to park is problematic in its lease. For instance, Amazon is coming in. There's going to be a great deal of truck traffic on 5th Street West and Palmdale Boulevard. That's just going to happen automatic because the trucks are going to come in and go out. Are we planning for that? Are we planning for the traffic? So I know today is just land use, and I'm in agreement with a lot of everyone that's on the Zoom call now. I think if we could have 3 districts, that would be better, but I'll go with whatever everyone else decides.
Okay, thank you for that one. Tony, did you want to share your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Blanco on alternative 3 because the east side does have more population. It's kind of I think more of a moderate plan versus, expanding too quickly or not expanding enough. I do agree with having a educational center on both sides of town. And that's pretty much it. But I think alternative 3 is best suits, the purpose of the whole city versus just one side or another.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's see, who have I missed? Oh, Joe, thank you. So Joe commented in the chat box that he also likes alternative 1 because that offers the most jobs. So thank you for that, Joe. Let's see, who did I haven't reached out to? Lotus, did you have other thoughts? Terry, what about you?
Yes, hello everybody. I too prefer alternative 3. I like the expansion of the medical locations both in West and East Palmdale. I think that serves both populations well. I'm also a big fan of the mixed neighborhood usage in alternative 3 because I think, like Juan had commented, it definitely helps with our expanding population of the millennial age group and what they're seeking when they're looking for housing. And I think that meets it. Also provides more walking type usage neighborhoods with easy convenience and cutting down traffic, as we were just talking about.
Great, thank you. Teresa, did you have anything to add?
No, I would just prefer to see education on east side and west side to kind of share that.
Okay. Thank you for that. So what about the medical district? The 3 options have, again, different locations and intensity of medical uses on the east and the west side. Do people have thoughts about that? Pat, I'll start with you.
It looks like a pretty good balance on the medical. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So I'm saying, do you have a preference of the way the medical district is laid out in the 3 alternatives? Do you have a preference for which alternative does that the best in your opinion?
Well, what we already have existing is already a start, and just expanding on that. I guess I really don't have a opinion. Expanding on the Kaiser on the east side, and then we have the hospital on the west side and other facilities in between. I think what we already have is a good mix. So designating more, not necessarily is needed.
Great, thank you. Do others have thoughts on the medical district? I can go through, call everyone by name, or if anyone has an opinion, just unmute yourself and go for it.
I'll go. This is Teresa Hambro by phone because my my Zoom's not working. So as far as medical, I would like to see a hospital on the east side because both the AV Hospital and the Palmdale Regional Hospital are on the west side. And I do believe in previous meetings, we had discussed the east side was lacking as far as medical accessibility for the residents out here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. The east side has been designated a medical service provider shortage area, in terms, especially for primary care physicians. So you're absolutely right on that. Other thoughts?
Jason Zink. I think
yes,
the most central place for a medical center is 47th and Palmdale Boulevard. That's where originally was planned for an actual hospital, and Larry Shimboli, actually, that's where he envisioned a hospital during his time. So if you look at that area also, you want to probably put senior complexes around it. And that area there is perfect for seniors, citizen village type housing to go along with the medical. So I think 47th and Palmdale Boulevard should be where it's at, not on S and 47.
Thank you for that, Jason. We had actually discussed that location you mentioned, but I think the reason we focused on the Avenue S location was tied to the fact that there's a lot of projects that have already been entitled on the 47th and Palmdale Boulevard intersection around that, which limits the possibility of having enough land for a medical facility. But that's an interesting comment. We also were trying to get further geographically a little further distance from the regional medical center so that the residents can get to that facility with more ease than on Palmdale Boulevard, which might be a little more congested.
I got one little piece.
There's really nothing built over there on Palmdale Boulevard and 47th.
Has anybody in all of this with the staff and consultants talked about the real, let's put it this way, the Palmdale Medical Center located where it is because that's where doctors wanted it. There was other sites and they fought back and forth for the longest time, and it looked like we weren't even going to get a hospital for a while because doctors had to be close to the freeway to get down to UCLA and wherever else they like to go. And the east side of Palmdale is way out of their zone. But the easier it is for a doctor to get to the freeway, to get down to Los Angeles, the better. So to plan on locating something on the east side, we need to look at our transportation issues to get doctors to the freeway quick.
Yeah, Pat, that's a really good point. And, on Avenue S, there is the Kaiser facility that's already in place. And so when you have the a kernel of something already in place, it's more likely to grow around it. With these medical facilities come supportive, medical office buildings and other, labs and pharmacies, etc. So there's that synergy between those uses. And since it's already started in that location, we think that it is more likely to grow. You're absolutely right about making sure the transportation connectivity is there to allow for ease of access. So we'll make a note of that. Juan, did you have any thoughts on the medical district?
Do I have thoughts on medical? Yeah, it's difficult because it's true. Transportation is a key point to a lot of this. The doctors, access to the freeway is critically important. And we're a little behind schedule with that P8 bypass. So as far as medical facilities, I think what you have on the board is is appropriate because uh, an area where you can concentrate, where people can get to, and right now Avenue S is available. It's available for not only construction, but for parking lot. So I think right now, the facility over at S and 47th is still a good option.
Okay, thank you.
And I
Is everybody aware that they're building, Antelope Valley Transit Authority is building a multi-million-dollar facility on 40th and Palmdale Boulevard?
That is correct. They're going to build a transfer station on Avenue S around 45th. And it's also part of a project for a monorail system. So that is an ideal spot for a medical facility. It's an ideal spot if we can get all the transportation working together at it. Because moving people around this town is important. And right now, I know folks don't want to get out of their vehicles, but we also have air quality. I'm not trying to throw too many things on the table right now. We also have air quality issues that we have to take into consideration. And we're poised to be an electric city. And this is a good start to make that happen. I'm done.
Okay, thanks, Juan. Deborah, did you have any thoughts? And then I have a few other questions about some of the other elements of the alternative.
Well, my only thoughts are that around medical facilities, I'd like to see that we've got the housing, low-income housing and senior housing for ease of access to medical facilities. But it looks like we've kind of got that built in at this point to some degree. That's pretty much my only thought about the medical, is that making sure that our people who are in most need of those services, that they have access to them, be that transportation or where their housing is located.
Thank you for that. So the next question I have for you is, do you think we have the right mix of or balance between employment type uses, residential uses, and mixed uses in the three alternatives? Do you have a preference for one of the alternatives because of that balance?
I actually noticed one thing. I liked that number one, that it was the best on the jobs, but I also liked, oh no, wait, I'm sorry. Number one was actually best on housing, but if you notice, number three was actually best on making jobs. So I kind of like a mixture of those two together. If we could somehow do something like that.
So Joe, you like having more housing and more jobs. So doing a mix and match between these alternatives is also an option. So we'll keep that in mind. What do others think of that?
How many years is it going to take for us to catch up on our housing?
That's a good question. The Reno allocation, the draft number, as you might know, SCAG, which is the Southern California Association of Government, allocates how much housing the city is supposed to plan for in the next 7 years. And that number is, they released draft numbers earlier this year, and they're supposed to give final guidance on that later this fall. And the number for Palmdale was close to 7,000. That's just what the city needs to plan for. For the purposes of the general plan, we take 3 times that number as what we are roughly planning for. So that's about 20,000 units. In terms of how long will it take to provide those, that's I wish I could predict that with any kind of certainty. but it's hard to, but that's what the city and the, needs to plan for.
Yeah, Pat, I will tell you, this is Carlene, just in case you guys can't see me, that we are seeing an uptick, and we have an exciting map that's being finalized next week, which we haven't had a map go to the final phase in a very long time. So it's 95 houses off of, or it's the northeast corner of Avenue R and 35th Street East. As someone said, obviously for the general plan, we just need to plan for the number of residential units, but that is exciting to see that even during this period of time that people are moving forward to actually finaling their maps to potentially put houses on them. So,
well, Santa Clarita is going to drive the affordable housing up here, but we still have to, the builder has to get 425,000 minimum for a house. So we're not there yet, but I think Santa Clarita is planning on 25,000 units going in the next 10 years or so. Maybe a little bit longer than that, and that'll start driving housing up our way. I think, the building, but we're so far behind because of the housing shortage. That was my question, and it's just asking for projection is all I was kind of curious about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and all three alternatives, but probably more so 1 and 3 than alternative 2. Include options for housing that aren't being built today, and these are types which are likely to be more affordable and also cost less to build, because they are probably smaller units. They are built in a shared. The building costs are just less because they are in. Multiple units in a single structure, whether they be apartments, vertically or horizontally as row houses or townhomes. Let's see, Deborah, what do you think about the housing or the balance between the various land uses, employment, residential, and mixed use within the 3 alternatives? Do you have any thoughts on?
Well,
on a preference and why?
My thing is, I'm kind of neutral on that, but because my thing is I like the mixed use. I think that's really kind of where younger people are going is the mixed use type thing. And so that's kind of what I like to see is the mixed use neighborhoods where people can walk and downstairs and have things available to them. So, and we've got that new market coming in that uses that the way that is done, that type of building. So that's the only thing that I'd like to see is more of the mixed use type stuff coming in.
Thank you. Terry?
I agree. I had stated before that I like the mixed use. I know when we're talking about jobs, I know administrative type work in the Antelope Valley is still way down compared to our industrial work. I'm hoping at some point we get to see a little bit of a surge in that as we move forward, more opportunities in that realm. So we don't have as many people traveling over the hill. But I'm pretty much in agreement with everything everybody's been saying.
Thank you. Lourdes? Your thoughts?
I'm in agreement. Oh, did I mute? Oh.
No, we can hear you.
I'm in agreement. I actually like the alternative 3, but I also would like a great amount of housing. Alternative 3 is more geared towards the employment aspect. And I do agree with respect to the mixed use of residential and commercial use as well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that. Tony?
I like the all the alternatives, with the mixed use, but jobs for me are number 1 because we need, obviously without jobs, we're not going to, our tax base isn't going to grow. and without any money, we're not going to go anywhere. So I believe we get jobs, we get the tax base, we get more money, we get more money in the community, and we can accomplish more things.
All right, Jason?
Yeah, I like the multi-use and the higher density. I think we still need more higher density along 47th and Pear Blossom Highway, since that's going to be a major corridor. I also believe that a junior college is what we need on the east side, since that's where all the population is going to be. And when you're talking about a junior college, you're talking several hundred millions to build. When you're talking university, you're talking billions. So I just think more realistically, it's better to have a junior college on the east side that provides university type courses. And plus, as you know, the high school district doesn't do a very good job having kids being college ready. So most of the time, all these kids have to take high school over again in junior college. That's one of the big things that we have to tackle. And so a junior college on the east side, where the population is going to be, where there's a lot of less educated people, I think is number one. I really do. And a junior college is more attainable than a university, although I think we do need a university. But that would probably have to be more located between Palmdale and Lancaster. But a junior college is, I think, essential. I think we need to talk about regional county offices. Where's the welfare offices and stuff going to be to serve Palmdale? Where's the best location for those? And I really do think we need to emphasize preservation of Joshua trees and desert woodlands, and the trail system and how that's going to hook up to all these housing elements that we're talking about right now. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Jason. We'll make a note of those comments as well. Colby, did you have any thoughts on the mix of employment and residential?
I think the mixed use is the one thing we've all been talking about from day one. With mixed use come a few of the more administrative type jobs when there's lower, they're more basic fundamental employers within the mixed use. So yeah, I think that's about right. The more the merrier on that. We still have to find people to build it, but it needs to be appealing enough for them to want to build it.
Yeah. Thank you. Let's see, did I miss anyone?
Teresa Hambro here.
Oh yes.
I'm not on your screen.
Yes, Teresa, go for it.
I agree with Joseph about number one having high housing and number three having high work, and combining that together. I thought that was a great idea.
Thank you for that. Are others generally in agreement with that approach? Well, yeah. We'll assume that's
I guess that would be yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to take that as. So let's see. We have had the poll open about which alternative you prefer for a little while. We have 8 responses so far. I know, Teresa, you can't participate since you're on the phone only, but has everybody else taken the survey? Seems like that's a yes. Let me end polling and share the results. So it looks like there's a preference for alternative 3. We have 5 votes for that alternative. The next is alternative 1 with 2 votes and 1 for alternative 2. So that's the result for alternative preference. I should also note that the preferred alternative that we develop will likely be a mix and match of what we hear from you and the larger community and the direction we get from the Planning Commission and Council. So it won't be any of these 3 alternatives. It will be the best of all 3. So now we wanted to ask you about the metrics, and I will, let me switch over to that slide here. Okay, and I'm going to launch another poll which asks about which metric is the most important to you when you're evaluating the 3 land use alternatives. And I know in some cases you might want to pick more than one, but I think you only get to pick your top priority.
That's what it means.
So the options for those who are watching the live stream, the 5 options we are asking is, which metric is the most important to you when evaluating the 3 land use alternatives? And those are number of households, number of jobs, annual vehicle miles traveled, walking or biking travel mode share, or annual household costs for transportation, energy, and water. Give folks another minute or so to respond. Okay, I think we have all who who are planning on responding, and here are the results. The most important metric, the winner is number of jobs. Clearly, the economy of the city is critical, and you've all chosen that to be the top criteria for selecting an alternative. So thank you for that. The other 3 which made the list are more households or more homes in Palmdale, and then there was 1 vote each for the travel, bike share, and the annual household costs as well. So that's I think that's it on the polls. I did want to go back and ask another question about the neighborhood centers or the village centers, and let me switch back to that slide. So the nature of the village centers is different in the 3 alternatives. In alternative 1, the concept is you have the neighborhood commercial uses which are surrounded by residential uses, either townhomes or courtyard apartments, or even small lot single family developments. In alternative 2, the village centers comprise only of retail and commercial uses. And in alternative 3, the village centers are anticipated to be mixed use in a vertical format, so you might see more of retail or commercial uses below and residential above. In all 3 alternatives, you would see supportive community facilities, possibly if parks and open space can be provided, whether they be in park space or plaza space, so gathering places for the community. You would also, those would be the best locations for community facilities like senior centers. We discussed this a little bit earlier, and also senior housing if housing is permitted in the alternative that's being presented. So let me go around the table here and ask about preferences. I'll start with you, Lourdes. What do you think? You're muted.
Preferences with respect to a community area?
Preferences for the village centers, because we have 3 different kinds of village centers that are in the 3 alternatives. Do you have a preference for which kind? For any one specific kind, I should say.
Right now, do not really have a preference with respect to where we put the village centers. My focus would be more towards employment and college or education and a hospital. So I really don't have any preference where we have our village centers at this point.
Okay. Others, Juan, I'll ask you next.
So Village Center 3, the one that says Village Center, Neighborhood Commercial Center and Mixed Use, because having storefronts in that area where people can live. If I'm kind of old, so I grew up with butcher shops and corner stores until they were supermarkets and now Walmart. So people have to travel to do any of their shopping. It'd be nice to be able to have your shopping in the area where you live in walking distance. And that's the goal, I believe, of what we're trying to achieve here on these village centers. So I'm in favor of Village Center 3.
Great, thank you, Juan. Joe? While we're waiting for Joe, I'll go to Teresa.
I do like the mixed use number 3 option. I agree with Juan. I think that's our goal, is to have the storefronts and the neighborhoods all together within walking distance.
Great. Thank you. Terry?
I'm also a big fan of mixed use 3. I prefer to see housing like 1 to 2 story townhouses. I would not like to see any high-rise housing, preferably housing with courtyard settings where we could walk to our conveniences. Especially we do have, not to mention the millennial population, but we also do have a higher senior population. And I think this type of housing would also appeal to our growing senior population.
Thank you. Joe, I see you're unmuted now.
I like, I'm with Juan and I forget the other lady's name. I agree with number 3 because I think that's where we're really heading, and what people want to see is they want to be able to come out of their houses and be able right by the stores, close proximity. So I would go with that one.
Great, thank you. Tony?
I also like alternative 3. It's hard for me to, because of the current layout and the way the city is laid out, for me to really see it, mentally. But I'm like, like I said, I hate to be redundant, but it's almost like what Mr. Blanco said and someone else in regards to having everything close by, walkability. I'm really familiar with, I spent some time in DC and New York, and I kind of like all that setup. You have everything around you. You don't have to go very far. You don't have to get in a car. Obviously, they have better transportation options than we have here, I think, with the subways and things like that. But I think alternative 3 does give you a little bit of all that, and I hope that that happens.
Thank you. Lourdes? You're muted.
I'm sorry, I was distracted. What was that question?
Oh, no worries. My question was, did you have a preference of the kind of village centers that are in each of the 3 alternatives? Do you have a preference for any one of them?
You asked me that earlier, and I said it didn't really.
I did. I'm sorry. I may have asked you that earlier, and I'm sure I did, but it's hard for me to track because the faces keep bouncing around the screen in front of me. So
no problem.
It's harder.
Yes, I didn't have any.
No worries. Deborah, I know I haven't asked you this question, so why don't you share your thoughts now?
Oh, it would be number 3 for sure, for the same reasons that I said before. That's the kind of livability that I think people want now. I think that's our future.
Great, thanks. Pat?
Well, I think they all have merit. You've got an old city in the middle. You've got, you know, unimproved areas around the city where you can do a lot of different things. The transportation is going to change according to how the city builds out. I think they all have merit, and it's just have to look at what exists in the areas around the proposed sites at this point and see which density makes the most sense.
Great, thank you. Jason, did you want to share your thoughts?
Yeah, I like the village centers. I don't see any on over by Kaiser. I don't see any at 4 Points. I don't see any over at the Oasis Village, which is what that's all supposed to be about, over there by Palmdale Hospital. That's supposed to be like a village over there. I don't see anything at the transportation hub. I think we need a little bit more thought on where these centers should be.
Yeah, there is one shown, and maybe it's not showing up on the map. It might have gotten cropped out, but there is one at Four Corners, based on the discussions we've had at previous meetings. Downtown also has a center. It's just it has a different nature than a village center because that's downtown, which is a city-wide destination, which is different from the village centers, which are intended to be more focused on the residential uses around.
Mm-hmm. How about over there on the west side by Palmdale Hospital and 47th and S?
Yes, there's one at 47th and S, and then the near Palmdale Hospital, we have it further to the west, which is where it's more tied into the residential uses there. There is commercial uses at near the hospital already, and again, that's a different that has a different nature. Let's see, Colby, I don't think I asked you your opinion on the village centers.
No, I mean, I was just kind of struck by us on number 3, which is the alternative. I think is good. It's very condensed on that one corridor right there, and the outskirts are pretty lightly represented. Is that because we think that they will not draw other? If we zone for it out their way in the outskirts, they will not be able to draw more housing or more residential or more commercial or anything out. Oh no, this is a bigger map now though, right? Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
So here you can see these all across the city.
Okay.
Let me point to this. So, this is the 4 Points down here, Jason. There are some over here on the west side, several of these village centers, and across the city. So the idea is to have those distributed across the city so that the residents who live closest to them have a place they can possibly walk or bike.
Yeah, I take it back. It looked like the west was 40. Really had like one on the way on the outskirts, and north there was like one on the out. But they're well spread out. So. Looks good.
Okay. Did anyone have any other questions on the metrics that we presented? Okay, so I have some other questions for you. Actually, before I jump to those questions, I just wanted to point out we got a comment on through our YouTube live broadcast about somebody who asked, what is the difference between neighborhood commercial and regional commercial? And the difference there is neighborhood commercial is smaller retail, which serves the daily needs of residents. So it would include grocery stores, the coffee shops, dry cleaners, your local accountant office, real estate office, and similar uses. While the regional commercial is more of big box retail, which would draw from a larger area and would have your Walmarts or a mall or any of the larger type retail, a super Target and other similar uses. Okay, so Jason and others mentioned, and we received this comment via email from a member of the public earlier as well, that we need to focus on preserving the Joshua tree habitat. And we've made a note of that, and the general plan will have policies and guidance associated with that. But besides that, are there other priority improvements or strategies that you think we should keep in mind as we develop the preferred alternative and then the policy framework subsequently? And that's it's an open-ended question. So
no, I just
go ahead, Jason, if you can be brief.
Yeah, I will. I just want to emphasize, I think we need a junior college. I think it's key to the future of Palmdale. I didn't even know what I wanted to be until after I graduated from high school. So I just think, if you want your kids to make $40,000-$50,000 a year, or do you want your kids to make $100,000 a year? And I think we have to focus on higher education. And I don't think just going right into a university, although we need that, I think a junior college is what's needed in Palmdale. And I think we need to put it on the east side of Palmdale.
Thank you, Jason. Great, thanks. Lourdes, go for it.
Yeah, I get it. I'm hearing all of these things for adolescents and things like that. But what just came to mind is that we lost the Boys and Girls Club. We really don't have any facilities for young people to also, when I say young people, younger children, to, we don't have those facilities, around, and there are a lot of young kids, in and throughout the city of Palmdale. So, and again, losing the Boys and Girls Club, but we don't have a place for them to actually go besides that. So I would like to see something like that as well.
Great. Thank you. Deborah?
Yes. What was your question?
Have thoughts? Are there things that we haven't talked about so far, and improvements or strategies that we should keep in mind as we look to developing the preferred alternative and the policies that go into the general plan later?
No, I think you kind of covered the stuff that I wanted to see covered today. Thank you.
Great. Colby?
Yeah, something just crossed my mind in respect to, with our obsession and our fondness of these mixed use, what do we call them? The ones with everything in there. Where does that put things like the parks and the Little League fields and the basketball courts and things like that? If you're so entrenched with all of those all-in-one places, where do we go? Where do my kids go play? Where do they go to their swim lessons, or where do they go play Little League? Because it seems like it's people that are just going to latch onto those and build that. And I just, am I missing how those get incorporated into those projects?
So if I can jump in here, I was thinking the exact same thing as you right now, Kobe. I just wrote it down because Lourdes hit on something: youth centers, athletics, and sports for our young people. that needs to be built into each one of those little villages. So that's a good point taken, and I think we should focus on that also. I agree
Yeah.
with both.
Thank you, Ann and Colby. So all the alternatives have require that as new residential development is built, open space is provided with each of them. So there's a parks requirement that the city has, which is a requirement placed on developers that based on the population, certain acreage of parks is required to be provided. What the general plan can do is also not just require for that park to be developed, but also have a mechanism for the ongoing support for maintenance and improvements over time. So that's something that the general plan could do, and we'll come back at future meetings to talk in more detail about what those policies should be. And then in addition to these larger parks, which could have athletic fields or community swimming pools, the residential development, especially those are in this mixed use format, will be required to provide common open space and private open space for individual units. Because when you don't have a backyard to go out and play in, or your kids to go out and play in, you want to make sure that developments provide that in a safe and secure manner for the children who live in that residential development.
So I'm sorry to continue it. So I watched the city council meeting, and Carlene can probably chime in. I watched the city council meeting where they rezoned the area over by the church and all of that, where they're going to do this big seems like the first version of that's going to hit in Palmdale. It's like condos and commercial and all of that. And I don't recall seeing those guys present anything respectful to the public usage items. Is that because that's not in our current requirements, and that this future general plan would correct that, or is it just so minimal that it really didn't even like raise my, I didn't even notice it when I watched the guy proposal. He did this fancy little proposal. So
sure. So Colby, yeah, this is Carlene. As our code stands today in existing general plan, each multifamily development is required to provide a certain percentage of open space as a part of their project. So any project that's gone forward recently has had to meet those requirements. It might not have been something that was highlighted in the presentation because City Council actually didn't approve the specific project that was heard before our Planning Commission, but the general plan amendment zone change that kind of accompanied that project, and staff just gave them kind of a quick overview of the project. But the greater discussion of what the open space looked like was presented to our Planning Commission. So it's just kind of who approved what, but it was definitely part of the project.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Perfect.
Yeah, I just want to agree with Colby and Juan. This is Jason Zink. I think the last 3 or 4 projects the city approved, they had no recreational element in the apartment or townhouse project at all. Back maybe 15 years ago, when K&B built the townhouses on 25th between Palmdale Boulevard and Avenue R, that townhouse complex was built without a swimming pool because they said, well, we could just use McAdams swimming pool. But that puts more pressure on McAdams swimming pool, where all the other people that live in the neighborhood use. So there has to be an equal balance, and make sure that these multifamily places, pay for recreational and open space areas for the residents in those new complexes.
Yeah,
thank you, Jason.
Yeah, these are all good things to keep considering. And yeah, I just want to reiterate that the developments that have come forward in the recent history, I guess, of approvals, I know there's been quite a few for multifamily, they have had to provide that open space, and they can kind of choose from, you know, what they would like to use as that open space. A pool obviously is one of those, you know, parks, tot lots, things like that. So our current standards, you know, exist as well, but great things to keep moving and including in the future. So great discussion, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Carlene. Pat, you're up.
I think we're right on track with everything that we've been discussing tonight. I think everything looks good. We're making progress in the right directions and touching on as much as we can chew on. I guess we get a lot to think about, and there's overlays and I was just sitting here thinking about when the last general plan was done, we had a building industry association up here, and the builders were so anxious to start building, and they were organized up here, and they put together the Boys and Girls Club, and they made so many things happen. They put money into the little leagues. They put up lights for the baseball field on Nassari's Park for the Little League. There was so much energy going on with the development of the Antelope Valley, and these builders really contributed so much. So I think we have something to look forward to in the future when the building starts up again. It was pretty exciting, and I think it'll happen again.
Thank you, Pat. Let's see, Tony.
Yeah, I think everybody that's here is obviously concerned about the city, and we're all volunteers, and we live in the community, we care about what's going on in the community. And I believe that number one is to keep everybody here, to keep the young people here, is about desirability. We're already in a bad position locally in terms of the desert. We're far away from Los Angeles. We're far away from everything. Some people like it because obviously, you know, many people are retired and they like living away from it all. But I drove to the city of LA because my job was in the city of LA for over 30 years, and it was difficult. And what I think we have to concentrate on is that desirability. And Jason touched on junior college and things like that. But I think we also have to touch on, you know, STEM programs in regards to, you know, science, tech, engineering, mathematics, because we have the Air Force Base here. We have the B-21 Raider program. We have the B-35. We have the drone programs. We have the military here. And in order to keep these people here, we have to concentrate not only on education, but we also have to concentrate on things for them to do. We talked about clubs. We talked about green space. We talked about walkability. We talked about housing and affordable housing. And I think we're all, you know, we're all on the right path in regards to all that. And we just have to keep with that. You see so many towns die because all their youth, all their folks, they leave because there's nothing going on in town. We got to make sure we're not that town. We got to make sure we're part of the discussion. And that's all I have.
Well, thank you for that. That's very meaningful to all of us who are on this call today, and I'm sure others who are listening. Thank you for your comments. We are getting close to the time for public comments. Is there anyone else who hasn't spoken yet and has some thoughts to share?
That would be me, Teresa Hambro.
Great, thank you, Teresa.
And
sorry, I keep missing you.
I know, no problem. So I think that my fellow members on this team have spoken eloquently on all the issues, and I agree with the comments that they have made. So thank you.
Great. Anyone else?
I just had a little statement to make. I'm full agreement with Pat and Anthony in regards to our housing and having, you know, space for our youth. But I also want to comment on the fact that we are a strong desert community, but that doesn't mean that we cannot be a cosmopolitan area, focusing on cultural and entertainment and having that part of our housing districts and incorporating that into the different areas about town. Building around, the playhouse and creating more of a entertainment area, whether we expand the mall, something similar to what Lancaster's done with the Boulevard, where you've got the museum and you have your theater and you have your restaurants within walking distance. You could park and just walk and dine. And I would love to see something like that incorporated into the city of Palmdale. Still embrace our desert roots, but we could still bring that cosmopolitan flavor that will keep the youth up here and will keep the entertainment up here. So you don't have to travel down below.
Here, here, Teresa, here, here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Did you have any other, anything else to add? I know we have one public comment, so we can move on to that. Let's do that. Melissa, did you want to share the public comment we received? And welcome back. Melissa, you're muted. I can't. We can't hear you. Do you want to copy it into the chat and I can read it off? Melissa's having a real...
Simran,
yes.
Are you talking about the public comments that's on the YouTube?
Yes.
Oh, because I have it up and I'm looking at it. And this is the comment from Lisa Kraft. Is that what you're referring to?
I'm not sure who it's from, and Melissa is not able to communicate, but she's shaking her head, so no. But let me read the comment that's here, and I don't know who the speaker is, but I'll just read it out. She said, "Hi, I understand the desire to split the medical services east and west. However, I believe there's also a difference between providing basic medical services and creating a true medical center. Research, laboratory facilities, and medical support services may be better attracted to a single medical center. It would be appropriate to ask the medical business and operational industry in order to look at this from a more feasibility level rather than I would like to see more medical spread out approach. As I mentioned, the access to State Route 14 freeway is important, and it's somebody, Steve J.
So let me just add that Teresa is spot on. We are poised to be not only a metropolitan area, but a suburban and rural area. We're already laid out for that in our general plans that we have been speaking about addresses that. And yes, there are some items that fall through the cracks and we're picking them up now, but I think we can make Palmdale a premier city. I really believe that. And sometimes we focus too much on Palmdale Boulevard. The mall is on Avenue P, and I think if we extend Avenue P a little bit further east, we can develop that center that Teresa was talking about. We can develop a center and possibly a convention center. But it just takes a little focusing on a different area. But Avenue P is a pretty good street to start building on because it does link the mall and it has on and off for the freeway. So yes,
Well,
I think you're right.
Avenue P is eventually we're looking at down the road at East-West Freeway along there at some point, correct? So that would make a lot of sense with what you have to say. If we're going to be putting in freeway through that area, that's going to become a more highly trafficked area as well. That's a good point.
Deborah, I think you're referring to the high desert corridor.
Yes, on
Carlene,
Avenue.
is that?
Yes.
Yes. So I don't know how much in the news this has been, but the high desert corridor is will not have a freeway component to it.
Well, I know that that's
will,
where it is right now, but I know it's gone back and forth as time has gone on. It's kind of changed back and forth depending on the political nature of the time. So don't we as a city already own land along there with anticipation of that happening from way back when?
The alignment is PA, technology.
It's technology? Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pat.
So let me add, the reason why the focus is on Avenue P is because of developing a large center there would not be disruptive to other communities. You know, sometimes people say, well, you know, I live here and it's making too much noise, but that area is adjacent to the airport, and right now it wouldn't interfere with anybody who has a home nearby. So, and it's underutilized. So it's just a concept that I have in my mind that I think would work perfectly.
Thank you, Carlene. I'll give you the last word here, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll just wanted to reiterate our thanks to, oh man, Colby changed his background. He's moving on to a new party.
It's happy hour, man. It's happy hour.
Sorry, I couldn't go unnoticed. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, everyone. We really appreciate your time. I know you guys are all, busy, and this is not something that any of you seem to take lightly. I feel like this discussion tonight has been really beneficial to the future of the city. So thank you for taking it seriously and just your contribution. It's been really nice to hear all of your voices again and to see some of your faces. So thank you. And Simran's gonna kind of give you a little bit of homework, I think, and wrap it up in regards to next steps. But thank you, and I'm excited for the next time that we get to be together.
Thanks, Carlene. As I mentioned earlier on, right now there's a virtual survey that's ongoing, and information about that is on the project website, which is palmdale2045.org. Some of you may have received notifications about it already through the general plan mailers that go out, emailers, I should say, that go out on a regular basis. And I know you provided your comments today, but we would love it for you to take the official quote unquote survey through that platform as well. We also want you to spread the word about it to your networks. And tomorrow morning, we'll send you an email with a link which you can just use to forward to your larger networks, your friends, family members, church members, and other groups that you might belong to. So besides the virtual survey, we also have the option of paper surveys for those who would prefer to fill it out on a hard copy. So if they send a request to Carlene at the general plan at palmdale2045.org email address, she can arrange for those to be sent out. We also have an open house, virtual open house on Saturday, August 8th. In the morning. So we'd love for you to attend. If you want to, it'll essentially be a similar presentation focused at the community at large. So a little bit more background about phase 1 engagement and what we heard before. But we'll review the alternatives with them and then give folks an opportunity to ask questions and provide answers in more of an interactive format. It's at 9:30 on August 8th. So again, spread the word about it and or come again and join us there. After we finish the survey, the next steps are we'll take the results of that survey and all the feedback we've received through emails, through various stakeholder focus groups that we've been conducting, and what we've heard from you, to both the Planning Commission and City Council, to get direction from them on the preferred alternative. And I also want to remind, actually, that's a good reminder, that for the workshop on August 8th, to be able to attend that, folks need to register for that, just the way you all did for today. That just helps us with security and also tracking how many community members might be attending. The link for that sign up is also on the project website, and we'll include that in the email we send you tomorrow morning. So that's your homework, as Carleen mentioned. Get the word out. We want to get as many survey responses as we can, so when we go to the Planning Commission and City Council, we can show that we got extensive responses and input from as many folks as we could in the community. And with that, I'll say thank you again for being here this evening. Really appreciate your comments. I thought it was a really good discussion, and I think it was a very productive meeting, and I look forward to the next time I see all of you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey,
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.